And welcome everybody to another episode of Scott Schilling Speaks. I'm your host, Scott Schilling. Got a great friend on with us here today. He's got an amazing book called The Revenue Growth Engine here. And we talk about sales and marketing. Everybody thinks sales and marketing are the same thing. Not so much. But there needs to be alignment between the two.
That's
Darrell,
right.
thanks for joining us here today.
Hey, Scott, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me in.
Absolutely. So again, I spilled a little bit of the beans there. Sales, a lot of people think sales and marketing are the same thing. They are very distinctly different and both need to be very well done. How would you first share the definition of them and then also why do they need to be aligned for great success?
It's a fantastic question. I think about the alignment. I think about going skiing. The snow's about to start falling in the Rockies and all around. And if you're going down the hill, you better have your skis aligned. If you don't, you're going to need to have your orthopedic surgeon on speed dial, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
But sales and marketing are like that. They need to be pointing in the same direction. I say that marketing is the company's message to your prospects and clients. And sales is, it's more of an individual's message to an individual prospect or client. And so here's the challenge, when they're pointed in different directions, people get confused. And the moment confusion enters, trust, which is already at an all-time low, drops. And, and then you struggle, you really struggle. And it can be as things as simple. I was talking to a commercial banking rep recently about this, and he started laughing. He's like, Darrell, just this morning, I walked into a client's office and he pulls out a piece of paper that he got from our marketing department and starts asking me questions about a program I've never even heard of before. And, and that is a comical and uncomfortable moment that tends to happen. He knew about it, but how many times in our companies is marketing doing one thing, sales is doing something else, using different language, going after different people, and it ends up taking, money that needs to be focused and well spent, resources that need to be aimed at growing a business, and it ends up diluting it. And sometimes it actually ends up shooting you in the foot.
Yeah, for sure. Sales is really the presentation of your products, good and service, where marketing is the representation of the organization and everything else behind it. And it's interesting when a marketing organization feels like, oh, well, gosh, but look at the PDF we made. Isn't this thing beautiful?
Right. Yes. So pretty.
It's so pretty. And like, who cares? Right. So,
but salespeople, it's just, salespeople, I'm not going to let you off the hook because, we can laugh at the marketing people and, all the shiny things. And by the way, Scott, just for full disclosure, I got both skis on. I've spent 28 years in B2B sales and sales development training, and I've spent 18 years in the whole digital marketing world. My very first client was in Texas when I launched a sales training company in 2004. We got done with the training and he said, Darrell, this stuff you taught my team is great, but our website doesn't say anything about it. Do you build websites? It was my first client. I said, yes, sir. We build websites. And and I actually, full disclosure, also had a marketing degree. So, but I started down this journey, and so marketing people, salespeople point at the marketing people and go, all you do is make these shiny things, but the message is, not relevant, or it's not even there. It's just a picture. But then salespeople, we've got to be honest as well. Are we bringing substance? Or are we just, as our good friend Larry Levine says, are we just an empty suit, right? Are we a well-dressed, shined shoes person coming in with no substance? And the reality is both sales and marketing need to be delivering a message, especially in today's static, noisy, cluttered marketplace that's focused and on point to the outcomes that buyer or prospect or client actually wants to achieve. So this is an effort that is really worthwhile for organizations to get sales and marketing lined up.
I totally agree with you. And disclosure, I also have a marketing degree. I mean, that's where I
Yep.
came out. And then the realism of actually being able to teach it and do it at the street level and actually sell as well. But I
Yeah.
totally agree with you that sales and marketing have to be aligned. Um, and really it comes down to the messaging and what do people really need to hear about the organization, and that has to be consistent in the sales presentation, obviously in the marketing as well. So are there any simple keys to boosting your revenue by making your messaging more aligned, or by what are some things that virtually anybody can do with their sales and marketing to help them ultimately turn that into additional revenue?
Great question. I'd like to focus on two sources and two numbers. So if you think of revenue, and revenue is the lifeblood of any business, right? When there's revenue, things are good. When there's no revenue, things are
Bad.
tense, right? So,
Bad.
so we could just say more revenue is a good thing overall. And so when you think about where revenue comes from, I like to make things simple, and I boil it down in the revenue growth engine book to really, there's only two sources of revenue. We go get net new business, or we cross sell more to our current clients. So we land and we expand, we get market share and we get wallet share, however you want to say it. Here's the challenge I've noticed, Scott. I'm curious what your experience has been. I've noticed that it seems like most businesses are either good at one or the other, but seldom are they good at both. So they're really good. Maybe they're great at sales. They're able to go out and get the new logo, ring the bell, write it on the board, and then they move on to the next deal. Or they're the type of company that just does a wonderful job of managing their client relationships, but it's been a long time since someone actually came in, or maybe at best it's highly inconsistent when they get new business. So what I've discovered is if you can get net new and cross sell going at the same time, what we begin to see is exponential revenue growth. In fact, companies that can grow just modest numbers, like say 15%, 12% in net new and 12 to 15% in cross sell at the same time, you're doubling your revenue in less than 3 years. And that's what gets me really fired up about organizations now, is some small adjustments in how they think about net new and cross sell, and the processes they have in place can yield massive results.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You asked my experience. It's funny. It brought up it just popped into my head, a client that I had that actually a Fortune 100 went in there, and I said, so what challenge do we have right now? Well, we want to grow our business. That's awesome. So tell me what's going well right now. Well, we put on about 1,500 new accounts a month. I said, that's awesome. I said, but your business isn't growing? And they said, no, our business is going backwards. And I said, okay, you're putting on 1,500 new a month. How many are leaving? Well, and they said, well, 2,200. Well, I said, then there's no doubt this training is going to work extremely well.
Right.
And they said, how can you guarantee that? I said, because the first thing we're going to do is slam the back door.
Right. Right.
You know, we're gonna put in programs that don't allow them to leave. So I mean, it's funny. I think sometimes, like you say, well, in this situation, believe it or not, I actually asked one of the salespeople. I said, "You've got this great account, but they just left. How long were they here?" Well, they were here about 18 months. I said, well, that's interesting. I said, what was your frequency of conversation? And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, how often did you talk to him? He said, well, I talked to him 18 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And how many times since then? Well, I didn't. And you
Ding, ding,
don't
ding, ding, ding.
understand why they left.
Right.
It's like, so I agree with you on the net new, right? There are only a limited number of ways to grow your business and to grow. And most of it is either new acquisition, which is far more costly
Mm-hmm.
than maintenance and cross sell and growth. right?
Absolutely. And it's so, I'm looking over your shoulder. I don't know if it's Zoom dyslexia, whether it's your left or right shoulder, right next to the cool, tall building with the bubble on top there in Dallas. And right next to the really cool diamond shaped building, which is my favorite building in Dallas, is one of my clients who was out there earlier this year. And it's, in the financial services space. So here's a great example of an opportunity for cross sell, right? So you think about, all the different services that a financial services company could provide. But the reality is, most of the time, without good processes in place, what you're describing is what happens. We go in, we get an order for one product or service, and we go, awesome. And I'll call you in a year, or never, whatever that is. But the reality is, as Jay Abraham says, who's one of my all-time favorite marketing authors, he said, we want to deliver the best and highest value. And when you look at a client through those eyes, and in that particular example, you begin to realize there are a lot of other holes or needs,
Right.
outcomes that the clients really could benefit from. And so what we want to make sure then is in a company like that, and really in every company, that there are processes in place to make sure that cross-sell opportunities happen. Because, it's really interesting, Scott, if you look at businesses, and I used to sell workflow management software. So that was I grew up in the tech world. And so we would, we'd draw the lines between the boxes and look for inefficiencies and all of that. And so you go around a business, there's processes everywhere: accounts payable, accounts receivable, onboarding, offboarding, delivery. Then you get in the sales or marketing department, and it's like the Wild West. It's like you're out in West Texas. There's tumbleweeds blowing by, a couple sales reps outside the saloon flipping a coin, and the sales manager's saying, hey, y'all go sell something. But where's the process, right? Yep. And marketing, marketing can laugh, but we're not much better in marketing. A lot of times it's like, build me a brochure, run an event. We need to do a webinar. Let's run where's the process? Those are all great things, but where's the process? And for my fellow Canadian friends, I would say, where's the process?
That's right.
But this is a multilingual podcast here. But the idea in all of this is to say, okay, let's look at our business, net new and cross sell. Let's figure out where we're not good and where we could use some improvement. And let's put some processes in place. And it's simple things like that that begin to move the needle in the right direction. And the first process would be, hey, why don't you call that client more than once every 18 months?
Yeah, why don't you
would be a
check
good place
in
to start.
It's actually one of the questions that I ask right out of the blocks many times, and it's unbelievable how easy the question is, but it's also amazing at how much it uncovers.
Yeah.
Hey, what's new and exciting?
Yeah.
Darrell, what's new and
how's
exciting?
business is another great question.
Well, I know.
Right? How's business?
Well, and I tell you why I use what's new and exciting.
I've heard this. It's good.
Versus how's business. What's new and exciting lends them to a positive answer, and it gets them encouraged about the business, and puts you on the path to potentially do more business with them. So again, I mean, it's absolutely amazing to me how many people do not have conversations with folks on a consistent basis, or just check-in calls or any of those things. Because if your focus is either one of the two, net new, brilliant, or cross-selling something, brilliant, how do you know where the opportunity lie if you don't continue to connect with them? It seems pretty like a pretty simple process. Why do sales and marketing departments have such a hard time with this?
Well, number one, they need to talk more than once every 18 months, right? That's part of it. They need to talk and work together. And one of the things we do with Revenue Growth Engine is we get sales and marketing talking. We get them aligned around clarity on who their ideal client profile is, like who are the types of prospects and clients that need everything that we sell and are a good fit for our business values and culture. And then they get alignment around the whole client experience. And this one is really enlightening for a lot of organizations when they get everyone in the room, sales, marketing, and operations or customer success, and they look at that whole journey of what happens,
Yeah.
from the time someone first encounters your company through approving the first order, through their whole journey as a client. And that brings a lot of clarity. That's when you start to see some of those gaping holes. One of my favorite authors, Joey Coleman, wrote a book, Never Lose a Customer Again. Phenomenal book. And his research demonstrates the same thing that we know from presidential elections. When a president's elected, they're always going, what's going on in the first 100 days, right? We judge that. And the reason for that is we do the same thing as consumers. Research shows that we've decided in the first 100 days whether we're going to do any more business with a company. We may not cancel, we may not be able to cancel, but we've already made that decision. So you look at, that's just one example of a very important moment in that a customer experience. There's like a huge disconnect, right? The salesperson comes back to the office, they got an order, it's signed, everyone high fives, the sales rep's like, I'm getting a bonus. They're on the top of the world. And what's your new customer thinking? Oh, I wonder if these guys are going to come through. I bought something last year in this space and it was terrible. And it really reflected poor on my job review. And so there's like these disconnects and these moments. And I think we've got to recognize where the client is in the journey, where the friction points are. And this is where we can start to think proactively about, okay, what could we do during that first 100 days to create an onboarding experience? Sales, marketing, operations, let's work together. And then when we start to look at it from that perspective, then we can work together as a team and say, okay, yeah, I know sales and marketing operations, we all do different things, but we're all serving the same person. Can we figure out together how to make that stage of the client experience awesome? So they're not only it's like you said, it's not just putting the gap in the bottom so stuff's not dripping out, putting the drain plug in, but it's so that they are actually set up, primed, and excited and ready to expand their relationship. And so these are the ways I think thinking about things from the perspective of the client experience gets sales and marketing lined up in the same direction and actually focusing on the things that matter.
Well, I think it's interesting you say client experience because it's definitely that. It's also the prospect experience, right?
Yep.
In the pre. And I love the various worksheets and free things that you share with those who come to your website, revenuegrowthengine.com, to get the various figures. The one thing I saw, the one about the ideal customer, and one little thing that I'd maybe add to it is the circle with the line through, that somebody, anybody, and fog and mirror are not prospects. Right?
Yes,
The reality,
so true.
right? The reality, it's a bit of a joke, but or hopefully a joke, but the reality is that somebody and anybody or everybody are not your ideal customer, or somebody that fogs a mirror is not your ideal customer. You really, I find it amazing as a consultant and trainer or coach when I go into a client and I say, who's your ideal customer? Who's your avatar? And they go, what do you mean? And you sit there and you say, you're a fairly successful organization here, so therefore would you have a pretty good idea of
right
who it is you want to sell your products, goods, and services to? It's amazing how many companies don't have that lined out.
Yeah, I mean, my experience has been exactly the same. And when you go, by the way, to revenuegrowthengine.net, or you can text the word revenue to 21,000. That's revenue to 21,000, and get access to some tools that you can put to work. I'd also love to send you a book. But what I've discovered is that, I think a lot of this happens. I was working with a client in Michigan yesterday, and they're at an inflection point in growth where they're ready to take their company to the next level. And I think what happened in the early days of their company was, early on, you kind of take orders from whomever is going to write you a check, right?
Right.
You kind of have to. The problem is when that becomes part of your corporate culture and you look up and, here's the deal. Mike Michalowicz, one of my favorite authors, he has a great book called The Pumpkin Plan. Most people know him for Profit First, but The Pumpkin Plan is a book on how to go after ideal clients. And, he just says it really plainly. He goes, not all clients are created equally. And the reality is, I think an ideal client, I define it as someone that can buy everything that you sell. So they need it, right? Not just one thing, but everything that you sell, or most everything that you sell. And they're a good fit with your company. So you might think over on this side, buy everything you sell about the revenue potential of that client. And Scott, when we're looking at companies and estimating the 10-year value of an ideal client, it's usually between 10 and 30 times their current average client value.
Right.
And I was just doing this yesterday. It was 11 times. And everyone around the table is like, jaws on the floor going, why aren't we focused on these people? Because the other good thing about an ideal client is they're aligned with your business. They're a good fit. They're like, they value working with you. They appreciate you. They're the type of client that your team, when the phone caller ID shows up or they see an appointment on the calendar, instead of getting a knot in their stomach, they go, oh, hey, that's Scott. I'm excited about that. And so if you can build you would, if for business owners and leaders in here, you build your team based on hiring people that have shared values. If you want to have a happy team, well, why can't we take that approach to building our clients? Now, I don't live in a rosy fantasy world, and I don't think you do either, where every client is going to be a magical experience. But if you can define what that ideal client looks like and focus, unless you're Nike or Dr. Pepper, your limited marketing and sales dollars on that ideal client, you've got an opportunity to bring in larger chunks of revenue and have the type of clients that are actually going to want to stick around because they appreciate you, and they're not the ones that are going to jump at the next lowest price offer that comes across their desk.
Well, that's another module that I share many times. I call it the performance pyramid. To a certain extent, it's really Piedro's principle of the 80-20 rule. 80% of your business is coming from 20% of your clients. I was working with a big heavy machinery organization one time, and I said that just kind of offhandedly, and they go, "No way!" And I said,
"No way." Yeah, right.
Pull out.
Look it up.
Can you do a customer list dump? And they said, "Sure." And so they did it, and I don't know. Let's just say that there were 600, customers in this dump like that. And I said, "Good. Let's go up to the top 20% and let's total up the numbers." And it was dead on. It was so amazing. And so, again, in the module, my suggestion to people is continue to work people up the pyramid. It's the numbers are down on the bottom, but the quality is up on the top. And what this is where, again, with what you're sharing with the net new and the cross sell, it's driving people to the top, right? It's driving the quality to do more business together. And then you can focus on them. And what you can actually do is you can allocate what becomes a disproportionate share of reward to your best customer.
Yeah.
Disproportionate meaning it's not equal with your least customer, meaning you can do a better job of caring for that better quality, which that's where your profit comes from too, right? Because they're not the pain they're not the PETA, the pain in the arse, right?
Yep. And I think we can take in business a good cue, another good strategy for sales and marketing teams to work together on with operations is thinking about looking at other businesses and taking a clue from them. So I'm seeing Dallas in the background. I connect through Dallas on American Airlines a lot. I mean, I'm on American. I'm a frequent flyer. I'm a high value customer to them, right? So they know, I get to check my bags for free. I get some better seats.
Right.
I get preferred boarding. Every so often they bump me up to the front of the plane because they know that I'm a high value client. So there's perks to that, as opposed to someone who just might travel once or twice a year. They know that, and they track that, and they reward that. And I think that, that mindset, whether or not you have a rewards or perks program, it's not a bad idea, but whether or not you do that, that you understand, and everyone in your business understands as well, who the ideal clients are. I think
Right.
sometimes, in the business world, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And a lot of times it's the low value clients you probably should invite to go work with one of your competitors, right?
Exactly. Hey, let
And
me
I've
show you
done
this
that before.
brochure.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we got some
These
great
guys got a
options
special.
here. That's right. He's got a deal for you. Because you look and you go, how much, 80-20 on the revenue. Okay, now let's start to look at our customer support time.
Yeah.
Or let's start to look at our late payments, or, all of the things that are a drain on business morale and resources. And I guarantee you, they're not the top 20% of your clients most of the time. They're actually in the bottom 20. And, there are people that would go so far as to say, you need to get rid of those people. You'd get rid of the bottom 20% of your employees if they weren't performing. There's some times where you may actually politely need to invite people to find a different vendor. So that, yeah, but truthfully, one that would be a better fit for their needs, because obviously there's not a good fit, and that's okay.
Uh, Again, it's usually, like, as you say, unfortunately, many times um, attention is focused on that squeaky wheel, as opposed
Mhm.
to attention being focused on that high contributor, that person that can really make your business fly and make you fly, and do that. And I think a lot of times people don't understand how much access they have to quality people, right?
Mhm.
They,
Mhm.
again, so I'm a uh, do better business with less people, right?
Mhm.
It just kind of seems to make sense. So um, our time is winding down here. Leave everybody with one, the silver bullet. I take the 250 some pages of your book and condense it into one silver bullet for this moment.
We're at the end of the year. We're setting goals. I want you to set good revenue goals, call them aggressive but realistic goals. And they're really just a factor of two things. How many more customers could we get? And how much could we raise our value per customer if we got strategic about it? Add those two, plan at that level, add them together, and you'll find you've got a goal that's aggressive, probably, but it's also very realistic because you know what's behind it: number of customers and revenue per customer.
That's awesome. Great piece of wisdom there for sure. That's awesome. How do people get a hold of you, the book, your expertise? How do they
Yeah.
track you down?
Well, hopefully it's not too hard. There's not that many people out there, Scott, named Darrell Amy. I think I found one other person in the universe, and he runs a painting company on the West Coast. So just look up the guy that's not with the painting company. You can text the word revenue to 21,000. That's word revenue to 21,000. Visit us at revenuegrowthengine.net. And I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. Uh, Thank you for being here. Greatly appreciate it. Great information. Great book. I encourage you all, get the book, reach out. Darrell and Darrell does a lot with Larry Levine. He mentioned them earlier. They do some great things together. I encourage you, check it out. See what's going
Thank
on.
you. Thank you.
Thanks for
Always a
being here
pleasure,
today.
Scott.
Absolutely. And thank you all for joining us here on Scott Schilling Speaks. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time. God bless.